Okay, this is the first day of a short unit we put together for Algebra 1A. It's called Patterns and Sequences. And so we might acknowledge that the question here that we have to answer is, what do you already know about patterns and sequences? And come up with a pattern or sequence of your own. So a pattern or sequence is just a list of numbers that has any kind of pattern. One that I particularly like, and one you may have seen, is the Fibonacci sequence. It looks like this. Um, it's a list of numbers where you get the next number by adding the previous two. So for example, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, 1 plus 2 is equal to 3, 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. So this is a list of numbers that I can get from adding the prior two numbers. So the next number in the sequence would be 8 plus 13 is 21. So this is actually a very popular, very common pattern that we see all the time. So on the next slide here, so you should have a paper copy of this on your desk, and so you should be able to follow along and write these notes down. So on the quadrants, this is the XY plane. We have four different sections. We have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4, right? For the origin, that is just the point at the center. That's the origin right there. And then graph and label the points. Oh, I forgot. So the axes, we label them X and Y. So the X-axis is always horizontal, and the Y-axis is the vertical one. And so what we do here is we can find a location on the XY plane by using an ordered pair. So ordered pairs are always lifted alphabetically. So X comes first, Y comes second. So your X is your horizontal movement. So 4 comma 2 is going to the right 4, up 2. So this location is an ordered pair. It's actually a point on the plane. 4 comma 2 is located by traveling from the origin right 4 and up 2. So when I see a -3, that means we're traveling left. So to go left, -3 units, and going up 6 will give me the ordered pair -3, 6. So you can be writing this on your paper as well. And then -1, 0 is just going left 1, and then no vertical movement. So there's -1, 0. So that was point C. This was point B. And let me throw on point A. So point A is 4 comma 2, which is to the right 4 and up 2. So here are the three first points they want you to graph. And so one thing you could do maybe is, let's do this. Let's pause the video and you graph points D, E, and F. And I'll put the answer up here, and so you can quickly start the video. So pause the video now. All right, so how'd you do? You notice here that we have the 3 points graphed. Point D is located 3 units down from the origin. I'm sorry, that's point E. Point D is located right 3 and down 5. And then point F is located left 5 and down 4. So the next example gives you another opportunity to practice this. So I'll graph the first 3 again. So -3, -2, that's left 3 and down 2. That's -3, -2. And then 0, -6. That's left and right 0 units and up 6 units. And then the third point is 3, -2. So that's right 3 and down 2. So here are 3 ordered pairs that I'm going to graph, finding each one by going horizontally first, dictated by the first number, and the vertical movement dictated by the second number. So I'm going to pause right now, can you pause the video and graph the final pairings? That's right, pause it. All right, so what you see here is -3, 4 is left 3, up 4, and then 3, 4 is right 3, up 4. And they have another repetition here of -3, -2. So the shape that we should have recognized is just a pentagon. So that's what's formed when you would plot these 6 ordered pairs. So right now we're going to talk about patterns and identifying those 3 different ways. Today we'll have three ways we can write patterns. The first way is just by listing them. And we saw this example with the Fibonacci sequence. I listed out the numbers as I found them in the pattern. So let's look for patterns in these sequences. So 4, 8, 12, 16. You might recognize that we're adding 4 to each number to get we're adding 4 from the previous to get the next one. So we'll add 4 to get 20. We'll add 4 to get 24. And then we're going to verbalize that change by writing add 4. The next pattern, you see that we're not adding, but we're multiplying. So we're multiplying by 2 on the previous number to get the next number in the sequence. So that would be 24 times 2, 48 times 2, and let's verbalize that as multiply by 2. On the next pattern, notice that they're using something completely different. One way to recognize this is they're adding 3, they're adding 5, they're adding 7, and they're adding 9 to get the next number. So then the fifth number in the sequence, the next number would be found by adding 11 to get 36, and then we're adding 13 to get 49. If you look at a different way, you might notice the pattern follows a different routine. It's the square. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 2, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, and so on. So sometimes patterns can have different techniques to find the next number. The pattern can be represented by a table, and sometimes we say an ordered pair as well. So when we see a table, we actually have a pattern for the X and a pattern for the Y. You might notice that the X's are increasing by 1, and the Y's are increasing by 4. So the missing number in this pattern is 12. And sometimes we can list that pattern as ordered pairs, but it still represents the same pattern. So the X pattern, we're going to be adding 1, and the Y pattern, we're going to be adding 4. Here's another example. Notice on the left-hand side, the X values, they're adding 1 to get to the next number. And on the right-hand side, it looks like they're multiplying by 2. So multiply by 2, and I get 12 when X is equal to 3. So then the ordered pairs would be 1, 3, 2, 6, 3, 12, and then 4, 24. So the X pattern, we would say we're going to add 1. And the Y pattern, we would say we were going to multiply by 2. Another example, why don't you pause the video and try this yourself. Okay, so pause it now. Okay, so how'd you do? You might recognize that the X's were added by 1 and the Y's were squared. So the Y is just the square of the X values. So the X pattern is going to be adding 1. And the Y pattern is the square of X. So whatever X was, I simply just square the number. So if we had to continue this, if X is 5, then Y would be 25. If X is 6, then Y would be 36. We can continue that pattern as far as we'd like. So finally, a pattern can be represented by a graph. All right? So now putting all of these pieces together, we now are able to look at it 3 different ways. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and this was our 12. And we'll write that as ordered pairs. But it's kind of a different perspective when you're able to put this onto a graph. These points are going to make shapes. So for example, 1, 4, 3, 12, and then 4, 16. That's up 16, so about right here. I know I got off the graph. Let's see, I'm missing 1, 2, 8. So 2, 8. And then let's try that. Let's try to do 3, 12 right here. So what you're going to see here is that these dots form a straight line. And that's going to be something important to us as we continue through these patterns. So the shape that these make is a line. right, so here's our next sequence that we've been working with. This is the one where we multiplied by 2, so this was 12. So I'm going to rewrite these as ordered pairs. And let's look at the shape that this one makes. So 1, 3, 2, 6, 3, 12, and then 4, 24 is going to be off the grid. But we have enough here to notice that we do form a straight line once again. So the shape we form is a line. On this one, it will not be a line. We're going to recognize that this is the square pattern. So let's go 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, and 4, 16. And look at this shape. It's not a straight line. Let's go right 1, up 1, right 2, up 4, and then right 3, up 9, and then right 4, up 16 is off the grid. But what ends up doing here is if we connect the dots, it's actually a curve. It kind of curves upward and increases as it moves forward. So we would say this is a curve. Okay, so describe 3 ways to represent patterns that we discussed today. Well, 3 ways where we could list it out, we could make a table, or we could have a graph of that particular pattern. So right now you're going to complete your handout, the sheet that comes with this, and after that you're going to do a Schoology assignment.